Nick played in the NFL, safety for a bunch of different teams. He's out in Denver now with Mile High Sports. Does here on the East Coast, we got Brian Baldinger, who does the Baldy breakdowns. Nick does a similar thing out on the mountain zone, I guess you can call it, although he's on Pacific time now, out in Denver, where he breaks down the film and does something similar to what Baldy does for us over here. So we reached out to Nick Ferguson, former NFL safety, as he joins us now on the Sports Bash 97.3 ESPN. Nick, what's happening, man?
Hey, sorry about the mix-up. That is on me. That's my fault.
That's all right. We always – it's funny. When we get these East Coast, Pacific Coast times, that's typically the thing that ends up happening there. But we always take for granted that everybody is on East Coast time. But, the world's a little different where you are. But the Super Bowl is on East Coast time. It will be actually Central time, but 2 East Coast teams out there. And I want to get your opinion on the Eagles' defense. You being a defensive guy – and what you saw them in that game, I mean, they dominated Minnesota, who's got some weapons. The quarterback doesn't jump out at you, but this is a team, Minnesota, has got some weapons with Thielen and Diggs. What impressed you about the Eagles' defense?
Well, the one thing that impressed me is what Jim Schwartz was able to do. And the NFL is all about creating matchups. He did an excellent job of taking advantage of the Vikings' offensive line. We can say whatever we want to say about Case Keenum. I know there's a lot of criticism. Most think that he's just a bridge. He's not one of the elite quarterbacks, but he was very impressive all season long. But it was just this game against a stout defense that did a great job of creating pressure, muddy in the pocket. That was something that he hadn't really had all season long. And even against the New Orleans Saints, he really didn't have that in the first half of the game. But I knew coming into this matchup that the Minnesota Vikings were going to have their handful, because you go back to that New Orleans Saints game when they jumped out to an early 17-0 lead, and they couldn't sustain that. Even the Saints defense was able to get after them. So I knew coming in, Schwartz was going to dial something up. They were going to cause Case Keenum some trouble. We saw early on Malone was able to get to him, hit his left hand against his chest, threw the rhythm and the throw off, and he threw that first interception, I think. And after that, it appears as though the Minnesota Vikings on both sides of the ball, they were shocked. They felt as though that they were one of the better teams in the NFL, and they went into the Eagles stadium saying, well, this Eagles team is an underdog team for the second week in a row. We can go in there, we can push them around, but boy, did the Eagles really elevate their level of playing on both sides of the ball.
They elevated their play on the offensive side of the ball because of Nick Foles. And Nick, how would you explain what you've seen from Foles? Because going into the Atlanta game, he was a question mark. But you tweeted out that he found his footing, and that win over the Falcons was a confidence booster for him. But this is a guy who played really well in 2013. He tailed off in 14. He then gets traded and has kind of been obscure until these moments.
But that says a lot about the NFL. The NFL, I don't care who you are, it is definitely a game that will humble you. And I think even Nick Foles and the success that he experienced, he realized to himself that it is a smaller window of opportunity. And luckily for him, he gets together with Doug Peterson. They have some history. And I know everyone in Philly was really high on Carson Wentz. And even I, was sad when Wentz went down, because I said, well, here's a young guy in the second year who could possibly win the MVP of the league, but now step in Nick Foles, a guy who went to the Pro Bowl, who's won some games in the NFL. So that's why I wasn't as shocked as everyone else, because I knew that the only thing that was lacking with Nick Foles was the fact of the chemistry with the starting wide receivers. And you can say, well, wasn't he in the same practice as Carson Wentz throwing with these wide receivers? Yes, but Wentz was getting all the number one reps with those wide receivers. And what we saw in the Giants game when he rallied the team, to me, that's what we're seeing a lot of Nick Foles now. What we saw against the Oakland Raiders, that wasn't, Nick Foles. To me, it was Nick Foles still, once again, trying to get his footing. And, yes, there was a lot of pressure on Nick Foles coming into this game. So Doug Peterson said, well, let's look at what our quarterback can do. Let's try to add some wrinkles into our offense to accentuate the skill set of Nick Foles. No, he cannot move the pocket like a Carson Wentz and evade pass rushers, emerge from the grass of a defender and launch the ball down the field. That's not Nick Foles' game. Run some of the RPOs, get him comfortable, throw the short, intermediate passes, and then when the throws are there, take the shots down the field. And I was really impressed what Nick Foles was able to do against Minnesota Vikings, because there were several times where the pocket started to collapse. He didn't panic. He didn't throw the ill-advised throw and throw the interception. He was poised. Eyes were still downfield. It was one hinge here, one hinge there, and reload and throw the ball down the field. So to me, I'm very impressed with what Nick Foles has been able to do thus far. And if he can stay with that level of consistency, they definitely have a chance against the New England Patriots in Minnesota.
Nick Ferguson, former NFL safety, joining us here on the Sports Bash 97.3 ESPN, Mile High Sports in Denver. Nick, one of the things that the Eagles, I thought all year long, separated them from years past, because there's little things that happen that make you go from 7-9 to 9-7, or from 7-9 to 11-5. The Eagles' defense the last couple of years did not tackle. This team tackles. And I think that is one of the huge reasons. You saw it in the game on Sunday, where they let you catch the ball in front, but they don't let you get a lot of yards after the catch.
Well, I think, once again, that is something that defensive coordinator Jim Schwartz definitely took a look at playing against Matt Ryan and Devontae Freeman the week, and Terry McColeman the week before, because there were a couple of plays where Malcolm Jenkins, the linebackers, were out of position, especially on the edge of the defense. And they said, well, if we want to get to where we need to get to, we need to tackle better as a team. And I can tell you one thing, playing a decade in the NFL, one of the things that is really hard is open field tackles. And to me, you have to expect your opponent, they're going to make some plays, they're going to make some catches, but you have to limit the yards after catch. And that's one thing that the Eagles defense did well in the game against the Minnesota Vikings. They've been doing well all year long. It's not just about, your front seven and being able to get to the quarterback. Your guys in the back end, they have to talk. There's a particular play in the Minnesota Vikings game where you have Kyle Rudolph and Stephon Diggs on the same side. They ran a pick route with Jalen Mills and Malcolm Jenkins. Jenkins, being a veteran, seeing it, notifying, rallied up, made the tackle, held Stephon Diggs a couple yards shy of the first down. That's what you have to do.
And conversely, Nick, I thought a big play in the game is 3rd and 6. The Eagles throw the ball to Clement out of the backfield, and Barr, who's an all-pro, doesn't make the tackle, and Clement gets the first down, and the Eagles end up scoring on that drive. If they don't get that 3rd down, they punt. So Barr, an all-pro linebacker, misses the tackle on an undrafted rookie free agent running back. It's amazing how the game changed there.
It definitely does. And, for quarterbacks, you make your money inside the red zone and on 3rd down. And as a defense as a whole, you have to be able to get off the field on 3rd down situations. To me, limit those possessions and moving the chains for the opposing offense. Yes, Barr, if he tracks Clement's inside hip, but this is where tackling and fundamentals come into play in the playoffs. One missed tackle here and there can lead to a first down, therefore lead to another touchdown. And since you're talking about Barr, there was a play inside the red zone where Nick Foles, once again, was spot on, and you talk about the chemistry with Alshon Jeffrey continues to come on week by week. There was a play where they came out in a formation where you had Alshon Jeffrey in the backfield. He motioned to the left side, came over to the right side, created a matchup with Trey Waynes, and Barr, being the linebacker on that side, I don't know what he was looking at, because there was nothing threatening to the flat. And Nick Foles was able to throw the ball at the crossbar, Alshon Jeffrey catch the ball, and he stays in bounds. These are the critical moments in playoff situations where when you're in a position to make a play, you have to make that play. And that is the difference between the Minnesota Vikings moving on to be the first team in history to play in a Super Bowl and being a host team to now Philly being that team. You have to make the plays when they're in front of you.
Nick, just a couple quick thoughts on what you saw from New England and how Philly will match up, New England's offense, and how Philly's defense would match up against them.
Well, it kind of is similar type philosophy for both Nick Foles and Tom Brady. It's how quickly can you get the ball out of your hand. And with that 1.2 or 2 second time going off in your head, that limits the pass rush on either side. So if the Eagles want to be effective, one, they're going to have to be great in open field tackling like they were against the Minnesota Vikings. The coverage, they have to communicate. That is something that we've seen the Patriots exploit, time and time again. They did it to an excellent secondary with the Jacksonville Jaguars. And, when the ball is thrown vertically, you have to be able to keep your hands off the receiver. You don't want to bail any quarterback out by putting your hand on the receiver when the ball is in the air and get that pass interference. And up front, you have to do whatever you can to get to Tom Brady. If you can't get there, you got to get your hands up because the ball is coming out. Try to get into those passing lanes and take some of those short, intermediate dump-offs that he loves. Knock those balls down a la J.J. Watts. If the Eagles defense can do that, and I'm not talking about just come out and have a fantastic first half, you have to do that for 60 minutes against terrific Tom Brady. I mean, they call him Tom Terrific for a reason. So you have to put an excellent game plan together if you expect to come out of Minnesota a champion.
We're talking with former NFL safety Nick Ferguson here on the Sports Bash 97.3 ESPN. As you heard him say, a decade in the NFL, and the game has changed a lot. But one thing is for sure, the New England Patriots in that decade have not gone away. So if the Eagles, this Patriots defense doesn't seem – they were terrible early on in the season, and now I couldn't believe it when I looked at the numbers, Nick. The Eagles scored 28.6. The Patriots scored 28.6. The Eagles give up 18.4. The Patriots give up 18.5. So both teams score a lot and don't give up a lot. How did the Patriots fix their defense?
Well, you have to understand, at the beginning of the season, that was kind of the first couple of 8 games or 6 games. You're dealing with a lot of new pieces. Faces change every year, but the idea still stays the same, is being ready towards the back end of the schedule, that December, January, and that's what Matt Patricia was able to do. I mean, we've seen throughout the season, it was kind of like the bend but don't break type of defense. They were giving up explosive plays because guys were not communicating. They were not recognizing formations based on down and distance, and they gave up some of those chunk plays, those splash plays that we talk about all the time. But as of late, they started to make teams, go the distance of the field. With the Jacksonville Jaguars game, Blake Bortles found himself in situations where he was backed up inside his own 20. And it's all about winning the field position battle, being backed up and trying to run the ball with Leonard Fournette. It just seemed like, Matt Patricia just shut that down. And I was surprised that the Jacksonville Jaguars didn't go to play to try to get Blake Bortles outside of the pocket with those RPOs, because all season long we've seen quarterbacks who are very mobile give the Patriots perimeter defense problems. We saw Deshaun Watson give them problems, and we saw Cam Newton give the defense problems as well. So if Nick Foles can channel any of Carson Wentz and able to get outside the pocket on those RPOs, now we're talking about adding a whole different element to it. And that defense that has played better in the past weeks for the New England Patriots, now he can open up those passing lanes, find Nelson Aguilar, find Torrey Smith, and find Alshon Jeffries down the field. He has to do whatever he can to get those wide receivers in rhythm, in timing, build that chemistry. But the biggest thing is you cannot turn the ball over. You turn the ball over to Tom Brady and the Patriots, that's game over, cancel Christmas, as we like to call it in Miami, and you're going to go back to Philly really disappointed.
Should be a fun one. It's the rematch of Super Bowl 39. Nick Ferguson _25 on Twitter. Check out his NFL viewpoints and a lot of interesting takes as the Eagles get ready for the New England Patriots in a game you can hear right here on 97.3. Sir Nick, it's always a pleasure, pal. Let's do it again soon.
Hey, pleasure's all mine. Fly, Eagles, fly.